Well, they say you always remember your first, and I definitely will remember hanging out with my new friend, Lauren Koper from Micallef Cigars. Did I get it right?
Yes, you got it right.
All right.
Perfect.
Now, she is the national sales executive for Micallef. And the best thing about it, what really got me going, if you go to her Instagram, it's triple_Maduro. Amazing marketing, amazing videos to promote this great brand, the Micallef cigars. And I'm actually smoking the Micallef Sumatra. So we'll definitely get into that. So, Lauren, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Fantastic. I feel like I'm at my best part in the morning. Cup of coffee, cigar, ready to go.
Yes, I've got a little bourbon and a little smoke. So even though it is in the wee small hours, it's evergreen. So it could be 10 o'clock at night when somebody is watching this. So
Oh
let's
yeah, for sure.
let's start at the beginning, okay? How? And I always ask this of everybody. I think the cigar finds us. We don't find the cigar. How did the cigar find you, Miss Lauren?
Well, we'll start. I first started smoking cigars. I want to say it's about 10 years now. So I started in my early 20s. And actually, it was when I was kind of more into beer, like going to beer festivals, that kind of thing. And they would always have cigar tents there. And I remember always liking the smell of cigars. I used to be a receptionist at the time, and my boss would always smoke cigars in his office, and I used to love the smell of it. So I decided to try it out, and I became hooked, started ordering them online. And then I walked into my first cigar lounge, and I just absolutely fell in love with the culture. And I haven't, I haven't been out of it since.
And that's really the word. I mean, I live in Miami, and the basketball team we have here, it's all about heat culture. But there is a cigar culture that, I think it's a little intimidating at first, but then when you walk in the doors, you say, "Hey, this is great." So you clearly were immersed in it, and when was the aha moment for you?
I'm pretty a sociable person, but I think I was just really inspired just going into a setting where you can just sit down and you can just talk to anyone. And I feel like having just a general curiosity of people, like those will attract those to the cigar industry because you meet so many different types of people, a lot of variety, great stories. I always hear amazing stories. And it's always I encounter people I would just never meet outside of the cigar industry. And especially when you start like moving around a lot, like I moved around, like I want to say a lot in the last 5 years, I would always just find my cigar lounge, my my landing pad, so to speak, and I would just gain close friends, and the closest friends I consider them family at this point. So I think that's what really inspired me in the cigar culture, and just really brought a lot of value to my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you travel, that's literally the first thing you do is you find what
Yeah.
cigar lounge, whether you're in the Dallas area, whether I'm in LA, whether I'm in New York, where am I going to have a smoky treat? That's then we can figure out hotels, then we can figure out dinner, but where is the smoky treat going to happen? All right, so now we cut to you're at Micallef Cigars, one of the best labels franchises. I was lucky enough to meet the boss, Al Micallef, actually here at Empire in Miami, and he's just great. You talk about a guy with stories. So how did you end up with Micallef?
Well, so this was about like 2 years ago when I was working industrial sales and I was living out in California, and I absolutely hated my job. It wasn't a terrible job.
What's industrial sales? Like you selling trash cans or what?
No, I sold garage door operators and gate operators, B2B sales. So I was selling to companies that professionally installed our product.
Okay.
And it wasn't a bad company, it wasn't a bad job. It just wasn't really a good fit for me. And I was kind of figuring out what was going to be phase two. Like, what am I going to do with my professional life? And then COVID hit. And that really, I think, made a lot of people think about some of their life choices and what they needed to do next in order to evolve. So I ended up quitting my job as soon as I got my bonus, of course. As soon as that check's cleared, I'm like, about see ya. And I moved to Texas, and I was just looking for what was next. And there was an opening at Cigars International. They were opening a new location in Fort Worth, and they were hiring retail associates. So I wanted to get in the cigar industry. So I was like, hell, like, fuck it, let's do it. And I applied and I started working in the humidor for about 10 months. And Al Micallef kept coming in because he like lives around that area. And I would talk to him, became friends with him. And then finally one day he comes in, he's like, I want you to work for me. I got a job for you. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So I've been working here for about over a year now.
All right. So I call it TikTok marketing, and it's not an insult. I think it's a compliment. So your videos, and again, your Instagram is triple_Maduro. They're just like a new way to sell cigars, and it's not and it's not like, hey, buy this. It's just fun, kind of cool videos that incorporate it. So how did that all come about? And then having the freedom to do it.
Oh, so I'm really lucky. I have great like mentors and leaders here. Amanda Micallef, Al's daughter, she does the marketing, and she's I want to VP. I think her title is VP. I know I just call her my boss essentially.
Well, let me tell you something. When the person's last name you work with is on the check, yes, ma'am.
My boss. I feel like a lot of people are my bosses here, though. Low on the totem pole, but you know. And she comes into my office one day, and she's like, "You're gonna start doing reels on Instagram." I was like, "Okay." I mean, now I'm in my 30s, so actually today's my birthday, so I'm 34 now.
No way! Happy birthday!
Thank you, happy birthday.
You can get rid of the fake ID now.
I know. Like now it's a compliment when people card you now. You're like, oh yeah, few good years left. Thanks.
Right.
She walks into and so I'm 34 or 33 at the time, and I'm like, I'm too old to do the TikTok stuff. Like, no. And she's like, well, you're gonna do it. You're gonna figure it out. And I was like, okay, great, let's do it. And I just started kind of like warming up at first, and then I asked her, I'm like, can they be funny? And she's like, yeah, for sure. So I feel like my accumulative experience being a consumer in the cigar industry and then working in the humidor and now working for a manufacturer, I feel like it just gives me a good, well-rounded perspective, and I can just take so much material from all facets of that and just like kind of make fun of it now. And I'm blessed they let me do whatever. Like I feel like sometimes I'm testing the limits a little bit, but they haven't said anything yet.
Well, you got Al in one of those. You got Al. I saw one the other day where
I
Al,
know. I was
from
able
Friends.
to
Is it from Friends, or it was like kind of a sync from a duet or something from Friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was able to convince him because I don't think Dan is also the president as well. I was like, he's not going to do it. I don't know about Amanda either. And I was like, Al would do it because he's very much a showmanship kind of guy. So I was like, Al, do you want to do this? And he's like, yeah, of course. And beautiful performance, of course.
I love it. So how does one market post-COVID? You know, this is a huge boom now in the cigar business. How does one market post-COVID? Is it reels? Is it? I mean, what's the game plan?
There is post-COVID. So like I came in kind of like right when everything was opening up again. So I kind of got to see a little bit of the influence, especially in the cigar industry, what COVID, impacted the cigar industry. So I feel, and our company too, there was a lot of like need to do interactive stuff online. So we actually have this group, and it's a great group. It's called the Micallef Ambassadors. And we all know that the cigar industry and the cigar culture, it's a very close-knit group, and there's always a need to actually keep investing in the culture and growing it. So that's why we came up with the Micallef Ambassadors. So we have like a Facebook group online where we can do live shows and everything. We do live shows twice a week. We have this podcast called like Off the Record, where we invite other people from the cigar industry on and we interview them. So during COVID, there was a lot of time, like it was this boom of interactive online culture. And so now post-COVID, you can notice there's a little bit of a dip in that because the world's opening up, people are doing their own thing now. And so there's not as much, but there's still like very dynamic, but it's just, it's like we're getting into phase 2 of how we're going to start marketing this. So just trying to keep that online presence as much as possible, interactive, very dynamic. And then also too, now we're going into a dip in the economy. So that's going to be very interesting for cigars in general.
So where is the cigar business from your perspective? Is it in a good place? Because I think like my wife works in lingerie.
Uh-huh.
Her company made a fortune during COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody's staying home. Everybody's getting frisky or even more at home. And I think the same worked for cigars. Everybody, you know, was man caves, whatever. So where is the state of the business from your perspective?
It's good, but there is. I have to admit, from a pessimistic perspective, I am a little worried just because it is a luxury profit or product. And during COVID, we did great too. I made jokes about it all the time. You know, thank God we were in the restaurant industry because we would have tanked. But you know, everyone was sitting at home smoking cigars. They had all this time, and especially with gas prices and everything's getting more expensive. My wireless bill went up for no reason. So I do feel like cigars might get the first thing that gets cut. But I think by building this strong community and making sure that, you know, people have a landing pad to go back to, I think cigars are going to do just fine.
Absolutely. 'Cause at the end of the day, you know, it is a luxury item, but it is something that brings us all together, and it makes
Mhm.
us feel good. But I always ask this when I'm dealing with a female, hey, what were the challenges as a female walking? Because you actually made a reel about this, where you walked in and then all these cigars kept falling on you, kind of a play off on the hot dogs that were falling. As a female, I mean, I'm sure you walk in and everybody's like, "Whoa, what's going on over here?" But then was it tough? Was it a challenge?
No, it wasn't really. I don't think it was necessarily a challenge in like the social world. There's more challenges once you get into it professionally, for sure. Um, and not to say like I'm in the trenches and I'm,
Yeah, yeah.
army crawling towards anything. I've heard stories from women back in the 90s. They weren't even allowed in cigar lounges.
Crazy.
So there's definitely challenges more on the professional side, just because I think women, we haven't necessarily flooded that market yet. So I think the biggest challenge for women in the cigar industry is that there's this intense pressure to represent our entire gender as a whole, as an individual. And that can be a lot sometimes, because a lot of people are going to come up to you and say, "Oh, as a woman, you're not supposed. No, no, you can't do that. You have to be like this." Because
You're just trying to be the best Lauren. Forget
Yes,
the whole gender. I'm just trying to be the best Jim. I'm just trying to be the best Lauren.
yes, yeah. I made a joke too in the social aspect as well. I mean, yes, we do have a little bit of that unicorn status. I would make jokes about breaking in a cigar lounge, right? So walk in right away, don't look at anyone because they're all looking at you, go in the humidor, and then name drop every cigar brand you like. And then they're like, okay, we're dealing with someone serious. And then you get your cigar. And then you keep going in enough times. And then they're like, oh, that's just Lauren. That's just Lauren coming in. Just to be seen as a person, I think, is when you hit your success mark.
Yeah. So what's next? What's next for you? What's next for the company?
Oh, well, what's next for me? Always proving my job security one day at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time. So basically we're growing the ambassador group. We are, growing our just nationwide presence as a brand. I think it's very exciting working for a smaller brand, is that it's there's more pressure, but it's good pressure in a way. You feel like, you're getting out there, getting nitty gritty, and each account that you land is it's just a huge sense of relief and just euphoria. So I think it's just growing the brand, making sure we're growing the community as well. And of course, supporting our brick and mortars. We're always about supporting our brick and mortars first before everything.
And so how does the creative juices come for the reels? I mean, what's the next reel going to be? What are you doing next? Is it a lot of this and a lot of this and a lot of sitting down? Because I love it. I mean, you've got the best job in the world, Amiga. You're sitting around having a scotch, smoking a cigar, and coming up with the next funny thing to say.
I know. Oh my gosh, there's this little insecurity, I will admit, that I'm like, oh, what happens if I just like run out of ideas? Like it's because I'll like, so like my phone is just full of reels that I sent to myself. And I feel bad when I put in the wrong number, because some poor soul's getting out there getting some reels that they're like, who's sending this to me? It's mostly being on TikTok all the time, being on Instagram, and just going, oh, that's a good idea. Or when you are working up the creative juices, sometimes it is a process, and it's a lot of problem solving too. So sometimes you look at a reel and you're like, okay, that's a good idea. I don't know when I want to use that yet, so I'm just going to send it to myself, and then suddenly the idea will just come.
Yeah. All right. Final word, Lauren. Where do you see this company? I mean, obviously it's a smaller brand, but it's very well known in the business. Where do you want to see this company in a couple of years, or what's next? What do you think is the next milestone?
Next milestone? That's a good question. I think the next milestone is when I have to think about this.
See, there's the creative juices right there. You puff, and then all of a sudden, here it comes.
Buffering, you can just see the wheels turning.
Loading, a little hourglass loading.
I just, honestly, I think the next milestone is just getting bigger,
Sure.
getting bigger as a company, gaining more profits. And then like we have a great team right now. We have a great sales team, great leadership. I think our marketing's doing awesome as well. So just continuing that momentum and just, if you're not growing, then you're dying. So I want to reach a point where I would like to reach a point where we know we're gonna be here in about 10 years. That's my goal.
And I would think this is part of the whole TikTok marketing is getting that next generation, because again, I think there, we all had this Winston Churchill guy with the Wall Street Journal under his arm walking in, huff, 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 getting getting hip, young females, males, everybody in there. And it's a different kind of scene. It's loud. Loud is good in cigar bars. It's almost like golf. Loud is good.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'll talk to even people that are opening up their own cigar lounges that are like around my age. And we have discussed like kind of like the newer generation coming in and what it looks like and what different ideas that we have. We have seen like kind of like, the pinnacle, like the top of the food chain, but they've been around for a while. And it's kind of interesting to see the cigar industry change, the cigar culture change. And that's true, getting more customers as well. Like there have been more women now that have been smoking, since a decade ago. So that's really exciting to see. And I think with more, diversity is what's going to keep the longevity going, because it's just going to create a lot of just, like different conversations, different perspectives. And it's just going to be a very unique culture to be invested into.
Well, I can't wait for the next reel. I've had an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Next time I'm in the Dallas area, hope we can all get together and have a smoke treat.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So before I let you go, we know your Instagram. It's _Maduro. Where else can we find Micallef in the company?
Yes. So you can find us also on Instagram as well. Reels are posted there too. Micallef Cigars, of course. And then if you guys want to join our really cool cigar enthusiast group, we have our Micallef ambassadors. So you can go to our website, micallefcigars.com, sign up to be an ambassador. It's completely free. And then you can join our Facebook group where we have all of our interactive and exclusive content and also drawings to win free money for cigars. So we have that available.
Those are all magic words: free money and cigars. Well, listen, next time I'm in the Dallas area, I am hitting you guys up. We should all have a smoking treatment. And when you guys come to Miami, you know where to find us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I will hook you up, definitely.
It's Lord Koper. It's Micallef Cigars, My Blend TV. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.